I always had a thing for old theaters. There's something enchanting about their grand architecture and faded glamour. When I heard about the long abandoned Rosewood Theater, I couldn't resist exploring it. I'm a sucker for urban exploration. The idea of uncovering its secrets was too tempting to pass up. It was a chilly, overcast afternoon when I arrived. The theater stood at the end of a deserted street. The facade of this once beautiful structure, now crumbling and covered in ivy. The marquee was missing letters, but you could still make out Rosewood Theater in ghostly remnants. As I approached, the wind howled through the broken windows, sending chills down my spine. The front doors were boarded up, but I found a side entrance that had been pried open. Inside, the darkness enveloped me. I clicked on my flashlight, and the beam cut through the dust-filled air, revealing the decaying beauty of the lobby. Faded red carpet, tattered posters of long-forgotten shows, and a chandelier hanging precariously from the ceiling. It was like stepping into a forgotten era. I made my way through the lobby of the auditorium. Rows of torn seats faced the stage, where a ragged curtain hung limply. I climbed onto the stage and looked out to the empty seats. It was eerie, imagining the crowds that once filled the theater with laughter and applause. Now, it was just me and the ghosts of performances past. As I explored backstage, I found old props and costumes covered in dust. There was a musty smell that permeated everything. Suddenly, my flashlight flickered, and I heard a faint whisper. I froze, straining to hear. But it was gone as quickly as it came, leaving me questioning if I had heard it at all. Determined to explore further, I ventured into the basement. The air grew colder as I descended the creaky stairs. The basement was a labyrinth of narrow hallways and storage rooms. I found a small dressing room, the mirror cracked, and the bulbs round it burnt out. Sitting on the vanity was an old, leather-bound diary. Curious, I opened it. The diary belonged to an actress named Evelyn March, who had performed at the Rosewood Theater decades ago. Her entry started out cheerful, detailing her excitement about joining the theater. But as I read on, her tone grew darker. She wrote about strange occurrences, footsteps in the empty hallways, whispers in the dark, and a sense of being watched. Evelyn's final entry sent a shiver down my spine. She wrote about seeing a figure in the audience during rehearsals, a shadowy figure that no one else could see. She became increasingly paranoid, convinced that the theater was haunted. Her last words were a desperate plea. If anyone reads this, beware. The theater holds a terrible secret. Just then, I heard a noise behind me. I spun around, but there was nothing there. My flashlight flickered again, and I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck. Panicking, I shoved the diary into my backpack and hurried back upstairs. The theater felt different now, more oppressive. Every shadow seemed to move, and the whispers grew louder. I needed to get out of there. But as I reached the lobby, the front door slammed shut. I ran to the side entrance, only to find it sealed as well. I was trapped. Suddenly, the chandelier in the lobby crashed to the floor, shattering into 1,000 pieces. In the dim light, I saw a figure standing at the top of the grand staircase. It was a woman in a vintage dress, her face obscured by shadows. She began to descend the stairs, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. I backed away, heart pounding, as the woman reached the bottom of the stairs. She lifted her head, and I saw her face, pale, with hollow eyes, with a twisted smile. It was Evelyn March. She reached out to me, and I felt a force pulling me toward her. Desperate, I pulled the diary from my backpack and held it out. "I found your diary," I shouted. "What do you want?" Evelyn stopped, her eyes locking onto the diary. For a moment, everything was still. Then, she began to speak, her voice a chilling whisper. "The theater demands a performance," she said. "A final performance." Suddenly, I was no longer in the lobby. I was on the stage, and curtains were drawn. The auditorium was filled with shadowy figures, their eyes fixed on me. I tried to move, but I was paralyzed. Evelyn stood beside me, her expression unreadable. "You will perform," she whispered, "or you will join us." The stage lights blazed to life, blinding me. I had no choice. I began to recite lines from a play I barely remembered, my voice shaky and weak. The shadows watched, their presence suffocating. Evelyn stood by, her eyes never leaving me. As I performed, I felt my energy fade away. My vision blurred, and my voice grew fainter. The shadows seemed to grow stronger, feeding off my fear. Just when I thought I couldn't go on, the lights flickered and went out. The shadows vanished, and I collapsed on the stage. When I woke, I was back in the basement, the diary clutched in my hands. The theater was silent, the oppressive atmosphere gone. I stumbled out, the sun setting outside. I never looked back. I still have Evelyn's diary. Sometimes I still hear whispers coming from it. And I know that the theater's secret is not truly laid to rest. But I'll never return to the Rosewood Theater. Some performances are best left forgotten, and I know I'll spend the rest of my life trying to forget mine. Thank you for joining me for another 10-minute Tales. I hope you enjoyed my creepypasta type story. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments down below. This story will also be posted over on my subreddit, r/NightmareKrys. Link is in the description down below as well. As always, please like and subscribe. New videos will be posted every Friday. And thanks so much for joining. See you next time.